Hey there dirt bike people, I'm Chuck from TrueTech, and today I'm going to be installing a new set of bars on this 99 WR400, and I'm going to go over a list of things that you want to look for when you're installing a new set of handlebars. A very common misconception that I encounter is that tall riders need tall bars. This is absolutely incorrect. I'm 6'4". If I put risers under my bars or run a taller bar, that's going to bring the bar closer to my chest and actually shrink my cockpit. Not only that, but it'll adversely affect my handling. Now, if I want to stand up like this and ride, taller bars are going to make that a lot more comfortable for me. It allows me to lock my knees, have my back and my hips in a straight line, my arms nice and straight. It's very comfortable and it's somewhat dangerous, but that's what tall bars are for. If you're in your proper attack position with your knees bent, your ass back, your elbows up, keeping your bars away from your chest is actually going to give you a more stable stance. The owner of this WR is an older guy. He's not concerned about going very fast. He just wants to relax and get out in the woods on his dirt bike. So a little bit of a taller bar is going to make that a lot more comfortable for him. Now, what about rolling your bars forward and back? Being a taller rider, I do sometimes find it helpful to get the bars further away from the pegs so that it opens up my cockpit and gives me a little bit of a wider stance, like a wider triangle instead of a tall skinny one. But what happens as a result of that, it's kind of like running a little bit less sag. You get a similar effect. The bike tends to oversteer and get a little bit twitchy and unstable. On my last bike, a Beta 300RR, the cockpit felt really small, and I always found that I wanted to push my bars forward, and I always felt a little bit cramped on the bike. With my gas now, a 23 TPI, I was very pleasantly surprised on my first ride to find out that I was actually able to pull my bars back so that they were in the center line of the forks again, and put them in a neutral position because the cockpit feels a little bit bigger on the gas. It fits my frame a lot better, and I feel a lot more stable while riding my gas. So in some cases, I do think that it is acceptable for taller riders to push their bars forward, as long as you're aware that that is going to adversely affect your handling. Lever position plays into this quite a bit too. You can see that this rider has his levers mounted quite far to the outside. When I put the new bars on, I'm probably going to slide them in a little bit, and I'll probably drop them down a little bit. That's going to give him a little bit more leverage. It's also going to help him keep his elbows up, and because I know that he's a relaxed kind of trail rider, I'm going to drop them down a little bit for him, and that's probably going to help him be more comfortable on the bike. Over here is also something that I often see riders get mixed up with. Lever position should be as far to the inside as possible if you want to ride in an elbow up position, and it is my opinion that the kill button should be the most accessible thing on your motorcycle. So for example, a lot of European bikes have a kill button that you operate with your clutch finger. That is absolutely ridiculous. Kill button should be operated by a thumb, something that's free to access the kill button at any time, even if you have your clutch in. Another little thing to keep in mind, this clutch lever just barely clears his handguard here, and if he dumps the bike and bends his handguard, which is very likely, when he pulls his clutch in, it's probably going to interfere here. So that's another reason to keep the levers as far in as possible, to keep them away from the handguards. I actually ran into a bike last year where the clutch was slipping, and it took me a little bit to figure it out, but all it was is the clutch lever was hanging up on the handguard and it wouldn't let it extend all the way. Another little thing here, this bike is getting full wraparound guards, so it's of utmost importance that the throttle tube be inset from the bar so that if it takes a side hit, the throttle doesn't get pinched against the handguard and stick wide open. And in my opinion, even if you're running just flags or no guards at all, it's quite foolish to have just simply a grip on the outside, because if it takes a hit from the side, motocross or in the woods, doesn't matter, and this assembly here gets pushed in, the throttle could potentially and realistically slide over, get jammed against this, and then stick wide open. So I definitely think it's wise to either run a bar end or a full wrap handguard, one of the two. Most handlebars will have a little scale like this. That often helps to both center them this way and gives you a good starting point as to how to roll them forward or backward. This one feels pretty good to me, just right here in the center position, so I'll start with that, and the customer is capable of adjusting that on his own. A little bit of grease on bolts helps to tighten them up properly so they don't come loose, and it also makes your bolts last a lot longer. Here's another very commonly overlooked fact. If you have a clamp that says up like that, usually what's going to be the case is that the top side is going to be thicker than the bottom side. Honda tends to use that style of a bar clamp here actually. And when that's the case, you want to tighten up the top one completely so that this bolt, even if something happens or if this bolt comes loose, this bolt is still going to stay tight and keep your lever, or in Honda's case, your handlebars in place. I think it's a very good way of doing it. So I've got this all set up. As you can see, I've dropped the brake lever and the clutch lever down a little. The bars are going to be higher, so I think he's going to be in a more relaxed position. And just as I was about to pull it off the bench, I noticed the front brake felt a little bit funny, and sure enough, it's hitting right against there, so I'll have to take care of that. So I have adjusted this now. I've got it to clear. It just barely clears. It's a little closer here than I would like for sure, but beggars can't be choosers. And part of the issue is that this Windham bend here has quite a short top section, so I can't move it further that way. So I had to actually move it in a little bit, and there's not a whole lot of options for how to adjust the lever, which is unfortunate, but it does work this way. If we need to adjust further, we can address that if the rider's uncomfortable. And when I did my final check over on this handlebar install, I noticed that the throttle wasn't snapping back and realized it was due to the grip itself hitting against the brake lever. And since I can't really change the brake lever position, I cut away a piece of this rubber so that it wouldn't interfere. So those are some key things to consider when setting up your handlebars. If you like this video, please go ahead and let the algorithm know. If you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you want to see what I'm doing on a more day-to-day basis, you can find that content on Instagram. Thanks a lot for watching.